Week 7 of the fantasy football season, and here's the top 12 defense DST units. I'm ranking this week number 1, the Buffalo Bills. So this Bill team, their defense is playing great football this season. I know they had a little bit of a hiccup in week 5 versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, but besides that, they're pretty much destroying teams and holding teams down. And last week we saw versus the Giants, only 9 points given up. So this week here, a good matchup with the Patriots. We know the Patriots give up the second most fantasy points to DSTs on the season. We don't know if it's going to be Mac Jones or Will Grier, but to be honest, it don't matter what quarterback's going to start for this New England Patriot team. I think the Bills, once again, even with injuries to White out for the season and Matt Milano, go in there and have a good ball game in New England. And I got them at 1. Number 2, the San Francisco 49ers to the Niners. We'll see if McCaffrey and Debo play in this one. They're hopeful both these guys could play in this game, but we're not 100% sure if they will. But anyway, this defense has been a powerhouse this season. Last week, I know they lost the game, but still a bunch of field goals and only giving up 19 points to the Cleveland Browns is why they lost that game, because the offense couldn't move the football and the Browns got the football in some favorable parts of the field. So this week here in Minnesota, no Justin Jefferson, obviously. He's out for multiple weeks with a hamstring injury. And this defense of the 49ers, I think, is the best unit in the league. So I think they could get to Kirk Cousins a few times. Offensive line isn't that great. And we know Kirk Cousins isn't really a mobile quarterback. So if you get a hand on him, most likely he's going to go down. So right now, without their number 1 weapon, and this defense may be having to step up more if McCaffrey and Debo don't play, I got them at 2. Number 3, the Cleveland Browns. This Brown defense held down one of the better offenses in the league, like I said, with the San Francisco 49ers. So right now they got a good matchup with the Indianapolis Colts. Gardner Minshew, he's going to be the starting quarterback. And when you got guys like Myles Garrett, Darius Smith that could rush the quarterback, and then a good corner like Denzel Ward in the secondary, this defense is going to go out there and make plays. Like I said, this Indianapolis Colts offense really isn't that good, even though Zach Moss has been good. Jonathan Taylor back in the mix, and Michael Pittman's had a decent season. But I believe this Brown defense can hold them in the mid-teens, low 20s, and make a few turnovers and get a few sacks here on Gardner Minshew. So this week, I got him at 3. Number 4, the Seattle Seahawks. So the Seahawks, they got a good matchup versus the Arizona Cardinals, an offense that obviously has trouble scoring the football. I know the first few weeks of the season, the offense didn't look totally bad, but the last couple weeks here, they haven't scored the football well. James Conner out once again with the injury. He's on IR, out a few more weeks. And they're going to have trouble moving the football, I believe, is this Arizona team. We saw them tee off on Daniel Jones and the Giants a few weeks ago as the Seahawks team with 11 sacks and a pick 6 as well in that game. I'm not saying they're going to go to that extreme and have a monster game, but I think they could have a decent game once again in Seattle. I think they could score anywhere from 10 to 15 fantasy points, get a few sacks on Joshua Dobbs, create a few turnovers, and they got some good players in the secondary, a young up-and-coming secondary. So this week, I got them at 4. Number 5, the Washington Commanders. So the Commanders, a good matchup this week here at the New York Giants. The Giants haven't scored a touchdown on offense since week 3 versus San Francisco 49ers. So right now, their offense is struggling. Offensive line banged up in one of the worst offensive lines to begin with right now. And I think Chase Young could get into the backfield and create havoc to either Tyrod Taylor or Daniel Jones, whoever starts this ball game for this New York Giants team. So right now, I still think the Giants could put points up, but we saw last week this defense come through and have a good game. Only 16 points allowed and 3 interceptions and 3 sacks as well to Desmond Ridder. I could see it be a type of game like that, or I could see the Giants score in the mid-20s as well, but still getting turnovers as Commander defense and getting some sacks as well. So I got them at 5. Number 6, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the Bucs here, their defense is a middle-of-the-pack type of defense. I know last week they didn't look all that great, but they still held a good Detroit offense to only 20 points. So this week here with Desmond Ridder and the Falcons coming to town here in this division matchup, I think Ridder's going to turn the ball over a few times. We know Ridder, he's good for getting sacked as well a few times as well. And this Buc defense is definitely a decent unit, I believe. I know they're not an elite defense, but they're definitely a defense that could go out there and put up fantasy points. And if they could get Ridder a few times with the sacks and also could get a few interceptions as well, which, like I said, Ridder's been good for the majority of the season this week here. I got them in number 6. Number 7, the Detroit Lions. So this Lion defense, they've been a great defense this season, and they've really turned things around from last season to this season is this DST defensive unit. So last week, only holding Tampa Bay to 6 points. I know Tampa's offense isn't elite, but they still got great receivers in Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Baker's been playing good football. So this week here, going to Baltimore, we know Lamar Jackson, he's been up and down so far this season. We know they really don't have a running game with Justice Hill and Gus Edwards. And I think Hutchinson in this defensive line could create some havoc to a mediocre offensive line for this Baltimore Ravens team. And we know Lamar likes to take chances, and sometimes he does hold on to the football a little too much as Lamar Jackson. I think Detroit, once again, this week is a decent unit and a team that fantasy owners should own in more fantasy leagues at the defensive position. So I got them at 7. Number 8, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Steelers, we know they're stout defense. We know they're grinded out type of defense. And this week, I know it's a tougher matchup going to Los Angeles at the Rams, where they got a pretty solid offense with Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, Kyron Williams, even though Williams most likely won't play in this game with a sprained ankle. But coming off a bye week, playing good football, big win versus a Baltimore Ravens team. Not many people gave them a chance. And also a fourth quarter comeback. So right now with all those factors and a good defensive line, obviously, led by and a great defensive line, obviously, led by Watt. I think this team here, sky's the limit for this defense this season. They could get pressure, obviously, on the quarterback. Patrick Peterson still can make plays in the secondary, and Minka Fitzpatrick. So this week here, I think this Steelers defense has a good game, even though they're going to give up their amount of points. But I think in terms of sacks and turning the football over, they'll be all right. And I got them at 8. Number 9, the Baltimore Ravens. So this Detroit Lion offense has been a good offense this season here. Obviously, David Montgomery's been solid, even though it looks like he's possibly not going to play in this game. Amon-Ra St. Brown's been one of the better wide receivers, and Sam Laporta, one of the better tight ends in the league. But I think this Baltimore Raven team, once again, they're bend but don't break type of unit, and they get sacks on the quarterback, and they do create some turnovers as well as Baltimore. So I think Jared Goff in this one, they'll get to him a few times. And I think this game will be in the low 20s to mid 20s between these two teams in Baltimore. So right now, the Ravens, they've been a top 10 unit this season in fantasy points. And once again, I got them in the top 10 at number 9, number 10, the Vegas Raiders. So the Raiders, the last 2 weeks, their defense has come to play, and they've won the last 2 games. I know Green Bay Packer team, young and up and coming week 5, and they're a mixed team. You don't know what you're going to get from them week in and week out. And then last week, they beat a New England Patriots team. That's one of the worst teams in the league. 1-5 with a good defensive performance. So Max Crosby right now, he's playing great defense. He's getting to the quarterback early and often. And even the secondary is going out there and making some plays. So this week here, Tyson Beckett, the quarterback for the Chicago Bear team. I think it's going to be a long day for the Chicago Bear offensive line and for Biggett, where he's going to have trouble getting the football out. We saw last week some horrible throws where he came in relief for Justin Fields in that ball game. And right now, I think this Raider pass rush is going to make some plays. I know they got a cross country, and it's going to be a tougher game than it would be if it was in the Midwest game, or obviously on the West Coast. But anyway, it's going to be a tough game for Biggett and this offense. And I think the Raiders, once again, have a good performance. Number 11, the Green Bay Packers. So the Packers going to Denver. You know, this Denver offense really hasn't moved the football at all that much this season. I know Wilson had a couple decent games, but for the most part, this Denver team's been blown out more times than not this season. So right now, Green Bay, they're coming off the bye week. I know they got a young defense, but also getting some guys back like Jair Alexander should be playing in this game. And if you could get him back and get the pass rush on Russell Wilson early and often, I think this Packer team could be a decent unit this week. And I got them at 11 in the 12th and final defense DST unit I'm ranking this week. New Orleans Saints. At the Saints have the Jaguars coming to town here on Thursday Night Football in this one. So right here, Trevor Lawrence not 100%. We don't know if he's going to play for sure. It's pretty much going to come down to the wire. But even if it's Trevor Lawrence or CJ Beathard, I think this Saints defense is going to play good either way. It's going to be a grinded out type of game. We saw it last week where the Saints did lose, but they're only going to give up at most 23, 26 points to this Jacksonville Jaguar team. They still get to the quarterback with Cam Jordan. They got Tyrann Mathieu in the secondary. You got Lattimore as well in the secondary. 2 solid pieces and good ball players. And this week here versus a team that's not going to be 100% offensively, even if Lawrence plays, I think they could tee you off and make some plays, because even Trevor Lawrence this season, his numbers really haven't been that great. And if he's not 100%, if he's going to play in this game with the knee injury, definitely could be a cause for concern. And if he doesn't play in this game, I would bump the Saints up even more. But I'm assuming Lawrence will play, so that's the top 12 defense DST units I'm ranking for Week 7 of the fantasy football season.